And up next, I am happy to bring to the stage several individuals who are going to be diving deep into sacred economies. So let's bring them to the stage. Bringing on Basil and Danny Bellavita and my co-producer Angie Rainbow G.
Hey, Tsunami, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here, Basil.
Aho.
Angie, how's it going?
Blessings. How are you, Basil? I've heard so many beautiful things about you and the Seeds Regenerative Economy organization. And I learned about you guys from Danny Bell, who's also joining us in this call. And I'm just looking forward to learn more about how seeds can help us change the world of economics. Can you tell us more?
Thank you, Angie. So, first of all, the term seeds and the platform seeds that you're referring to is not really the end all be all. It's just the base that allows the growth of so many companies and brands on top of this base. So the key is that for us to regenerate the planet, we have to go back to the old way where we had a very regenerative cycle going in the community level with our farms and everything was just cycled. It was great. And then that got disrupted. We had to do that. We had to prove that we could mass produce stuff for space and stuff, right? So we're good there. We know how to mass produce now. But now we have to get back to a natural way of interacting with the nature so that our purchasing and our consumption goes in line with the natural flow from the farms through the producers and to the consumers on a more local level so that the actual product is much healthier straight out of the ground in a perfect world. So that's kind of the starting place for how we're working with these new cutting edge exponential technologies today to start to mimic the natural behaviors of Mother Nature, of the universe, of the ecosystem. So I think that's what you could call sacred, is a 4 billion year old system on this planet. It's pretty sacred there. What we learn through the natural cycles of life in, say, a forest or a coral reef is we see all of the interactions happening at high speed at all levels, from the large forms that we see with our eyes to what's really happening, which is in the soil or on the micro level that we don't see. So those things that we don't really see with our eyes without microscopes are actually so essential to the well-being of life on Earth, and we depend on all of those beings to create that which we hold dear, which is clean water, food, and oxygen. At the end of the day, we needed that oxygen, and thank you to all those organisms who've created that. And now we're just at a state where we need to kind of go back to that interaction, but at a much larger scale. And we have the technologies today to start to shift the behavior. It's evolution. Yeah. We're evolving as a species. And this weekend is a point in case. Harmonizing Humanity is really what we're after. And to do that, we have to reconnect with our own nature, what we need internally, and then how we interact with the nature around us, even outside our homes, but definitely when it comes to the planet we call home, our one home, Earth. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So today, this is the Abundance Temple. And one of the conversations that we have been having is how can we create infinite regenerative funding for all of the projects that are here to transform the world from lack and scarcity into one of abundance and harmony. How do you think that seeds can help to transform the economy from lack and scarcity into abundance and harmony?
So at the end of the day, for us to, like for instance, let's give the example of where I am right now. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, center of America, otherwise first world country with all access to resources. There's an Amazon fulfillment center not far away, and a bunch of grocery stores. But what it doesn't have anymore in this community is the local farming that it once had around the city. And so through this COVID epidemic, what we've seen is that we cannot feed ourselves as a city. And we have a few operators that are working tirelessly, like Katie Plohocki with Healthy Community Store Initiative and others with Tulsa Food Security, to try to support that pipeline from the farms to the people. But the system is so broken that the complexity of dealing with the small farmers and the small artisanal producers right now is too complex for the system that we have in place from the 20th century. But thanks to networking and blockchain and Uber and Amazon and everybody, thank you guys, Etsy, all of y'all, did a great job to make it possible that we can start to each as a human being, not even just like a human animal, but like as a holonic being, as like a tree that provides life for children and community around us through service, that each of us can just wake up and live our lives and do what we love. And it works to support the community around us because we've designed a system that allows each seed to grow in any way it wants. And each child, all of us came from seed, the DNA, and every life form comes from that seed. And so the idea or the being is just a representation, a manifestation of the growth of that being. And it's just a beautiful process to watch unfold, like when you're watching a tree or you're watching a human being grow from 0 to 100. It's a beautiful process, but we're not seeing it anymore. We're not seeing that beauty like we used to see. We used to respect the elders. We used to respect our teachers. And now it's like we don't even respect ourselves. So this harmonizing humanity is critical to repair the outdated systems a little bit so that we can survive another few generations, hopefully, in a peaceful world. So this sort of self-expression, but with the understanding of the responsibility that we each have in our community, in our home, with our families, with our friends, to just look out for their best interest. It's just kind of like the watch your back protocol. I feel like if I just take care of 6 people around me and they take care of 6 people, it kind of works. Next thing you know, we have a whole network that's just supporting each other. And now we have the technological tools to make that easy, because now we can't even come together physically. So we have to utilize these technologies to allow humanity to behave like an advanced civilization in the next version of ourselves before we go out. So it's a beautiful process. But before we go out to space, we have to learn how to regenerate a planet. And let's start with this one, because it's going to be much easier here than in Mars. Thank you, Elon. We need all that. It's called redundancy. Redundancy is great, but let's heal this Earth. And the way that we heal it is simply by changing the producer-consumer complex. It's simple. Okay. The consumers want to buy regen, and the farmers produce the regen, and it's a cycle on the local level with your neighbors, or whether you're ordering food from Thailand or Brazil. We can have this complex economic system provided by seeds that allows, when I buy a product here in America, that benefit immediately goes back not only to the farmer, but to the community organizations, the decentralized autonomous organizations and co-ops around that farmer, so that when we buy the product, we're also healing the planet and taking care of the community and educating the children. And it's just all built into the system under the hood at the end of the day. But right now it's the very beginning, and we have all of these teams all over the world pioneering these technologies, trying to figure out how to coexist and how to cooperate so we can scale
Yeah.
fast, so we can like build it.
So it's a perpetually growing ecosystem of impact that each seed plugs into the whole on. It's a singular of the whole, where as each seed grows and becomes stronger, the whole becomes stronger.
Each time you plant another tree in the forest,
Yep.
exponential impact. So every time a new seed comes on, theoretically, that adds exponential impact. So the more come together, the more growth of the overall. And instead of focusing on one product or one idea or one brand or one individual, we don't do that. We look at just the whole forest and we try to grow it all up together. And some trees are like pioneers, like Beyonce. She's not a, well, she's a pioneer, but she's like an emergent tree. She like shoots through the stratosphere. But not all of us go through the canopy. Some of us stay below the upper canopy, and we still enjoy existence on the ground with the animals and the spirits and all of that. So visualizing it in a very natural way is a very natural way to look at it. And now we have the technologies that can mirror nature, and we start to bring it together.
And just in a way, so the audience, anyone viewing right now, for them to understand how like to actually start utilizing seeds and put it into integrating it into their business or even just their life. Like, okay, as a person myself, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to switch off of all of these existing currencies like the US dollar or all the other ones, then this other new currency would need to basically essentially be able to be used for all the things that we're used to doing in life, right? Like for every other thing, whether it be service, consumables, or things like that, right?
So speaking on like where the tech is right now today, as far as using it in our daily life, it's essentially usable, it's exchangeable. But right now we're not so like urging just like the tech is important, but more important than the tech is like the way we come together to design the systems which are supposed to govern our lives. And that's all of our lives. So we all need to come in. So seeds is predicated upon the co-creation and participation of all the people that come into the platform. That's one of the only ways that I can see to ensure that that which we create as a public utility service, which is to transfer money with zero fees, which should just be normal. Transfer product with zero fees. That should be normal too. But it's not. Right now, it's about how we, it's not so much about the money as how we behave on the ground and how we help to create regenerative support networks with organizations like, say, in Brazil or Costa Rica or LA or wherever. The situation that we're finding is that you have all of these NGOs and organizations that are tasked with supporting humanity. However, they're dependent upon money from philanthropists and corporate and grant, and it's a painful process every year.
All siloed. They're all doing their own thing, siloed apart from each other, right?
Siloed, not coordinated at all.
Exactly.
So that's what we're ultimately doing, is learning how to coordinate our efforts so that when you have like 100 organizations that are all dealing with homeless, they're going to need the same thing. Give them one product, boom, done, and then they can grow together. It's a lot more complicated than that, but the idea is to look at the issue or the root of the issue and then sort of focus everybody on that, and then we all co-create, you know, this. It's a constantly evolving process, and there's no fixed point of like success. It's just life. It's constantly growing. So right now we're just going to learn how to triage this current situation the best we can, and it's going to depend upon regenerators on the ground coming together, no-till farm beds at large scale, and start to feed the people in the communities around them. And then we use seeds grants to help to fuel that process in Guatemala and everywhere, to just help to sort of drive the participation of the good caretakers in communities. They don't get support right now. So we have to give them support. It's the healers of the world. The healers and the educators and the farmers and the artists and the musicians, they are underappreciated and they're not taken care of correctly. And so this system, this economic system is designed to essentially support people for the spiritual capital they pour forth, not for their time labor. And that's the way that we start to exist in a more joyful and harmonious way, and we just live together, and we happen to work together sometimes, but otherwise we're just living together on this planet.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to welcome Danny Bell. She's now with us. Would love to have you chime in as well on this.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lovely to hear a little bit from you about seeds. I've been following the Seeds project along with the Regen Network and a variety of these ecosystems that we're creating in order to look at how and where are the places where people are actually already doing these things. You know, there are farms and communities and places where people started doing this a long time ago. And we have so many lessons to learn from it and so many places that are actually achieving some level of regenerativity. But the thing that excites me about hearing about seeds and the reason why I follow that for some time is we're also seeing a bit of burnout and frustration with managing the relationships we have with the different people coming in with different kind of roles and responsibilities as to how they're interacting with the land. So, for example, the ownership of land is something that's really essential that we start taking a look at. There's people who are contributing in really valuable ways. And it's not valued right now. So what I'm hearing is these new tools and protocols are coming in to help us understand how we can capture the value that's being generated in that spiritual way, the different forms of capital that we have, and how are we storing that in the projects and in the places we care about and exchanging it, as you said, without fees for conducting those transactions. So we're at an amazing crossroads right now. I'm really excited to see these new technological tools that are coming to the ground, to the people that are working on the ground and who desperately need these ways to record their exchanges and these ways to govern, if you will, how to make solid decisions around how to use the resources and regenerativity and distribute it appropriately. So just my little kudos and thanks to those of you at Seeds that are doing this work. I really, really appreciate it.
What do you want to say?
Yes, I would just like to share a little bit about the concept of seeds, and I think that of how it resonates within our community as a conscious community, because it's been coming through every collective organization that I've been a part of in the last few months, and I think it just represents something really strong. Even if it's not the be and all thing that we use for the future of humanity for all eternity, it has a really good resonance feeling of the seeds of we live through seeds. We plant a seed of consciousness. We plant seeds to feed ourselves, to nourish the soil. And having this icon of the seeds to heal and regenerate the planet really resonates within many of us. And to be able to take that and move it into spaces like how we were working with Karma Tribe and like working on some sort of gifting economy. How do we turn this into a new economy, that's not based on fossil fuels, but based on the true value exchange of nature, of what the trees are actually worth, what the air is worth, of every exchange that we're having between ourselves right now as we were giving and receiving true value energy. And so, imagine how amazing it would be. I had this vision. It's probably, who knows where it is in the universe, but, imagine if we had a seeds recycling system where, you know, everyone would receive seeds for recycling. You know, we could clean up the world instantly, and then it would be based on a new currency. Just at anything that we're doing, like planting humanity as people as trees. Imagine we could fund these trees that we're planting through seeds, through an alternative economy, so that we are creating this new economy just by acting, by planting the seeds and doing things. Imagine if we could fund all of the volunteer projects worldwide through seeds, through a new economy. You know, why don't we have 1 million seeds going into each conservation organization right now? It's just like flipping that switch into a new belief, into this new economy, into this new world.
Want to be careful with like icon concept and like superficial things, because seed as a brand or as a platform, it has to have a logo, it has to have a thing, right? But that's, you know, over like hundreds of years that can change, and that's going to evolve, I'm sure. The name, whatever, it might become a tree one day. But right now, the goal here is, what is the most effortless way we can like provide a tool so that any organization in anywhere in the world, on or off grid, like in the middle of the Amazon, in the Thai tribes up in Myanmar, you know, Indonesian islands, anywhere that would allow them to get their economy, not from poaching the animals, not from cutting the trees, not from doing all of the palm oil stuff, but to get economy through ecological supporting land planning. And so one of the people who I found very early on in my process was Alan Lopsh, who started the Tree Coin project in Myanmar. And it's simple, it's like $1, and then you save in a mangrove Thor Heyerdahl Climate Park tree token, and that helps to sequester the CO2, because mangroves are crazy. They're like the superhero of the ecosystem that, as far as a tree plant, they just suck the CO2 out of the air and put it in the ground, and they save the coastal from like the storms. They provide all of that habitat for the crabs and the fish species and just everything. When they clean, they keep the sediment from washing off into the water that kills grass reefs and the coral reefs. And so just this one tree is so powerful that that they created this token way ahead of anybody. It seems like Alan was a super pioneer, but it's still in existence. And that's what all of this is kind of birthed out of. I mean, you know, blockchain, Bitcoin, those were technologies, but as far as like natural asset capital, regenerative economics, that's theory. And then we're merging biomimicry now and more to kind of just like allow for us to support every square meter on Earth with real love, not with what can I get from this land, but what can I put into this land? And we start to change our behavior, even if we're stuck in the virtual world, which is like LA or New York or Singapore, that's the virtual space. Even if we're stuck in the space world away from nature, we still depend on nature products coming from Thailand or wherever. And so as part of the process, we want to make sure that we're healing the planet with the purchasing that we're making. And so that's kind of the shift that's going to be happening across the board as humanity starts to realize, you're like, you know what? It's actually better when grandma makes the cookies. And then when they realize this, then we start to go back to this sort of way where we handle providing all the resources that we need as 8 billion, 10 billion strong, but we do it in this heart way where human beings are making things for other human beings and they know each other, even if they never meet. So that, you know, what Etsy started and all this P2P, you know, exchanges and marketplaces are good, but now we need to back it with a better economy. Otherwise it won't work. And so that's what Seeds does, is it's the new economy that allows us to build all of these platforms and networks on top of to yield maximum regenerative and maximum net positive impact with every single transaction. And that's the key for the future.
I might chime in here to say that as we're creating these new economies, our economy consists of many layers, right? So there isn't just one solution, one economy, one tool, one thing that we're exchanging, right? Seeds is coming in at a place that has the ability to restore what has been damaged, right? Our current system is extractive. It's extracting the minerals right out of the soil and shipping it out of the country. It's extracting the water from the areas that are now droughted by taking away the trees and growing cows instead. But creating these new economic systems that we're doing requires a complete overhaul of everything. Like grandma's cookies taste great because grandma doesn't sell you her cookies. You go over to grandma's and get the cookies she fresh baked, right? So we've commoditized everything in a desperate attempt to survive because we've been put in this situation of requiring money for survival, right? And how much of that can we undo? How much can we decommoditize and recognize that there's the very first thing is, do I need this and can I give it away? Right? So the one element of this new economy that we're creating is what can I actually just give away because I have plenty or I don't need this anymore. And then from there, it's, is this something that people in my community could benefit from, but I still need to maintain a share in that? So then we go into the sharing degree of economy. What do we only need a few of within a valley, within a village, within a watershed or a region that we can mobilize and take to our decentralized eco-village and build this here and then go construct it there? You know, what are the things we can give away or share? Then we get to the things that are, what does this have in value to me that in order for me to exchange it, I would require something in return for that. So the economies that we're creating now, you know, where we look locally, what we can do to do it locally, and now we have these new emergent tools that allow us to become mobile with that wherever we go, and to be like how the trees know when one of the trees in the forest is ill, right? There's this whole thing that happens underneath the mycelium start talking. They're like, yo, there's a shortage over there. And they start bringing it from where it is to where it's needed. We're doing that up here. Well, we're supposed to do that up here, right? We kind of forgot that.
We're supposed to take life. Okay, so it's really, I used to ask this question of everybody. I'm going to ask it to Tsunami. Tsunami. So as a human being, you understand like what a lion does in the ecosystem, or you know what staphylococcus bacteria do to dissolve our bodies when we die and stuff like that. What is a human's relationship to the ecosystem? What is our natural relationship, and what are we supposed to do on behalf of or in the niche that we fill in the ecosystem?
I believe we're supposed to be creators and be down here to help make the ecosystem better in any ways we can. And that's taking note from nature, and how can we use the things that we take from nature and integrate those into our societies, our economies, our everyday life.
Right. So my process to try to figure this out, I was like, what were we doing like 20,000 years ago, or 50,000 years ago, or 100,000 years ago? And I think at like what apes do and monkeys, you know, other primates, and what they do and what elephants and stuff do. And what I realized is that mobile animals serve a role in the ecosystem to move seeds from point A to point B. And that's pretty much it. Bats, birds, everything. Insects for the pollen, to move the information, the DNA. The DNA is the information, and bees exist for that process. And everything is part of the moving of stuff around the ecosystem for the sustainability of life.
Yeah.
And so as a species with opposable thumbs that can do extremely intricate, finite, like late microscope stuff, with that ability, it's obvious when you look at just the tangible realities that we're seeing with medical technology, with genetics, with Monsanto, with all of that stuff. It all serves a purpose. The oil extraction industry, nuclear, it all serves a purpose to help us to break the gravity and take the DNA to other planets across the universe, other rocks across the universe. And so we're serving a role, and we're building the machines that can actually survive the thousands and thousands of years it's going to take to move stuff around. You know, but we as humans, we evolved on the ground of Earth in this atmosphere. And so while Elon and everybody is working on that stuff, we have to, as the majority of the humans on the planet, have to kind of become regenerators of our 1 square meter of Earth. Even if we're in a slum, if we're living in a slum, we can still grow in the slum. And so if we're living in a high-rise condo in New York, we can still grow in that condo. We got the tech for that now. You can grow your medicine and everything.
Yeah.
So so once we kind of get back to that level, then not only are we increasing the genetic diversity of all of those plants and making sure that, you know, a virus comes through, everything doesn't go extinct because it's all the same. Mm-hmm. So, you know, this is our power is to, I see it as like we move life, we create life, we engineer DNA. We're going to bring back the dodo bird, I'm sure of it. But the point is that and then we can take life to other planets.
So we're co-creators of life is what we're meant to be, essentially, right? We're not just supposed to be just living here. We're supposed to assist in the co-creation of
all
more
life forms,
life and more abundance.
Yeah, from bacteria up, and the service of the virus is just to help to move DNA around from organism to organism to aid in the overall evolution. If you look at it in a very like biological kind of objective manner, it is what it is. But yeah, right now, because of what's happening, we're seeing how these outdated centralized resource models can't handle the complexity to take care of the rural communities across America. The rural communities across the rest of the world, they take care of themselves because they grow what they need. But in like America, you know, that we have very limited access. And so that's the process right now in America, especially, is to like stop consuming outside and start to generate and enjoy the inside, and just like, you know, and then we can do it. And then the food tastes so much better if you grow your own tomato. Or the community around you does. And so,
well, especially, I mean, especially with taking food, for example, when you're buying food from a grocery store, which has been pulled off the plant, who knows how long before that. Most fruits, vegetables, all these things are meant actually to be consumed right after picking within like minutes. Otherwise, it's a steady decline of the nutrients that are in it.
Well, they say it's the photons. They say that when a plant is growing, it's taking in the light through the chloroplast and storing the energy in the photon form. And so when you eat fresh vegetables, fresh fruit off of the vine, then it's said that, you know, essentially you're eating those foods so fast, the photons are coming out inside your body, which is like exposing it to the healing properties of those energies, those energies.
So there's that, and then there's the factor of growing food with love and intention, and, you know, going into the garden, putting your feet in the soil, letting the toxins from your feet go down into the soil, because the plants are so intelligent and they're here to help us, serve us, that they'll start producing stuff that's customized for your body, even where it's going to be on a whole nother level than anything you can go find in any grocery store.
And I have a question. How can people like our viewers and people around the world, how can we begin to transition from a fossil fuel economy into a regenerative economy? What's the first step?
I don't know what's happened in the energy sector since yesterday. Seems like it's moving along. The best stuff that I've seen so far for like microgrid energy storage that's not wasteful and doesn't take like lead or lithium or anything from the mines, really, not much at least, is just hydrogen storage solutions. And so there's a bunch of organizations. A friend of mine has a company called Enapter. It's based out of Switzerland and Germany. And they do like these microgrid. I think they won like the Guinness Book of World Records for like the fastest grid setup competition or something. I don't know if they won, but these are like small hydrogen, like almost like futuristic kind of like modules, and it just like they pack so much energy. And so these can be carried around, and it's really easy to have like in places like Africa where you don't have the infrastructure at all. Then as long as you can create the energy through some manner, some new technology or some old technology that Tesla made up or something, and then you can store it in like a solution that's low cost and low waste and durable, then we can empower humanity for the devices which measure all the IoT for the ecosystem monitoring between the planet satellites with Regen Network you mentioned earlier. Now we can start to like take care of the planet from like one kind of hive mind. People might be scared when you say that, but that's actually the evolution of society, where we can kind of like cooperate, like almost telepathically, like the ants do, it seems like, when we can start to exist at that level, so that we can like move and do mass scale projects just through our communication technologies, so that we can, mobilize, people en masse to like save the planet. So it's like small and large. So you want to design the system so that like it works like in the tiniest scale, like in your home. And then if it works in the home, and that's what we're working on with Seeds right now, is to make sure that, hey, does it feed me every day? Does it pay for me to get a haircut right now? And all of those things that you need to transact with people, which I still do barter. And so for me, this is easy because I already do barter. I don't use US dollar generally for transaction on that kind of stuff, because I'm a photographer and a filmmaker and I provide service, so it's easy to barter. But through Seeds and all of these new technologies, we'll be able to kind of handle that level of like, hey, I'll edit a film for you, and then, but we pass it on, and we, instead of using like a fixed currency, a fiat currency, we're using a high-speed, frictionless cryptocurrency, so that we don't waste so much, and the money doesn't go down silos. That's the main thing. It's like the second biggest problem in the world is that the ecosystem is dying. And then the first biggest problem is that we have enough money to kind of fix it, but it's all like stored up, in like these silos. So now that we have these technologies, I see all of the impact investors, a lot of the billionaires, a lot of the philanthropists starting to see that, we need this sort of new system that kind of makes it easy, so that the money that they give us for the NGOs doesn't just go into the ground. Instead, when they give a microfinance, like a seed grant, then it starts up a system, and that's perpetual and like continues to generate value for that organization or company. And that's kind of the practice that we all have to do as human beings, is learn how to manage our home and our ecosystem in our little area. And then we do that en masse.
Yeah.
And we'll get there.
That sounds all very, very exciting. And because we're going to be, we're almost at the closing of this panel, which I think we should be having some more of these soon, because we definitely have a lot more we can touch on this subject. And before we leave, Basil, can you please tell the audience on how they can learn more about Seeds?
So right now, I would suggest going to seedslibrary.com, and you'll get some information that we have there. That'll start you off. And then you can go to joinseeds.com, and that's the main site for our Passport app. You can look for our other application, which is the Seeds Light Wallet, which is more for like daily transaction, for like day-to-day use. Whereas the Seeds Passport is for ultimately the governance of the economy. So if you want to sort of go down the route of becoming a Seeds citizen or a global citizen that's managing the Seeds economy, you can go through that process. But I suggest just kind of looking at that information and then reaching out through people that you know, and then start to attend town hall meetings that we'll be having weekly around the world with our ambassadors, to kind of find out more about what the organizations and the people in local bioregions need to thrive. And then through that process, we'll co-create this system together as a global consensus, not just some people in Silicon Valley or wherever, but one mind. And then we leverage all of those perspectives to make sure that we design a healthy, robust system that can really support everybody's interests at the end of the day. So
yeah, it's time. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Basil, for coming on. We're so happy to have partnered with Seeds, with Harmonizing Humanity, and we're just excited.